Hello, Elisha. Welcome to the Women Waken podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this is really exciting because, my goodness, Elisha, you were the first person ever to reach out to me to express your gratitude and appreciation for my podcast.
That's so cool. It was very synchronistic at the time.
It was so beautiful and it made my day, but it also just was the first big boost I got that, oh my God, somebody's listening. Because as you might know, because you have now started your own podcast, which is also such a beautiful circle moment, like coming around, you reaching out about my podcast and now being a guest, and you expressing your appreciation for podcasts and then starting your own. So here we are, several years later, on another spot on the circle, and it's fabulous. I'm really excited for you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited too. Your podcast really, it wasn't the first podcast I listened to, but it was the first, I guess, hour-long format that I found that I was really vibing with. And at the time, I was having these negative thought loops. So it was better for me to put something in my ears and focus on something else. And all of your episodes were just resonating. And honestly, your first interview got me hooked because this girl experienced some alien sightings, and it was the first time I've ever heard anybody explain their like UFO sightings, and it sounds almost exactly the same as mine. And so
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that because I don't know that you told me about your alien sightings.
I
I don't
didn't
think you.
tell you.
Okay, woo! One of my favorite topics. Yeah, Dragonfly, my very first interview, very first guest. She's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just tell you about those alien sightings. This
Let's
is
go. Let's start there. Well, first, let me introduce you. I always
okay.
get carried away. After years of doing the show, I still get carried away and don't formally introduce my guests sometimes until like 20 minutes in. But Elisha, you are a licensed massage therapist, which was the first thing you told me about yourself because what you said that was so sweet. Another thing that was beautiful, when you sent me that email, you said, I love your long format episodes because I give massages and I'll put my headphones in and listen while I'm doing my work, while I'm massaging. And I, at the time, was working with a podcasting coach, and he's like, you have to make your episodes shorter. Don't do them so long. And I was like, but I like longer ones sometimes. So you kind of affirmed you were this sort of synchronistic guidance that was like, keep them long. Okay, so you're also a certified aromatherapist, a hypnotherapist, and of course, now the host of the That's Just Human podcast that aims to inspire and educate others so that they can learn to embrace life better and drop into their authentic selves.
Yes.
So beautiful. Congratulations on all of that, which you'll tell us about. But first, aliens.
Okay, first alien.
Always
So
aliens first.
um I don't know, this was probably 2013, 2014. And all of this happened, I would say, within a couple weeks time span. So the first time, it's at night, and I'm with a friend and her daughter, and we're walking out to her car in a parking lot. And we all three of us just happened to notice these flashes of light. There were three like blue lights up in the sky, and they just flashed faster than anything. It went kind of a sideways. It wasn't like a blip in and out. It was as if they were moving flash sideways. You see them one moment and then they're gone. They were moving so fast. And so we had a little discussion and just kind of put it in your back pocket. Cool. I think we just saw like some UFOs or something. And look at our lives. So fast forward a few days later, middle of the day, I am by myself driving to wherever, and I happen to be at a stoplight, and I'm just kind of perusing out the windows as one does, and I see in the sky two blue lights, the exact same looking blue lights like I had seen three of the previous couple of nights prior, and they were equally as fast, like this flash horizontally through the sky, there, then gone. So I get to my friends at whatever point we meet up later that night, the next day, I don't know, and I'm like, hey, I have to tell you this story. I was driving along and I saw these flashes of light, look just like that. Well, my friend didn't see it, but her daughter's like, oh my gosh, I was outside at that time, same time that I was. I looked up in the sky and I also saw these two blue like flashes, whatever. And we're like, okay, well, that's crazy neat. Then fast forward a couple more days, and it's now nighttime. I'm driving again, and I notice the same light. This time there's only one of them, and it like zooms across the sky. I'm like, whoa, I saw another one. So when I see my friend again after my activities, I start to tell her my story, how I was driving and I saw another light. And her daughter is like, what time was it? So I tell her what time it was when I was in the car, and she's like, oh my gosh, right around that same time, like maybe just a minute before, I was in my bedroom and my entire room was illuminated by this blue light from through the window. And and then it was gone. And then I saw this flash of whatever. So it was these three different moments all within a couple week time span, but like the same light, the same way it moved. And I was not the only person that saw it. So it's just totally wild. That's the only time I've seen anything like that in my life, but it is forever sealed in my memory.
I guess so. And how interesting that both you and your friend's daughter both saw this light at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys are a part of the same species that were trying to connect with you, this alien species that were trying to make contact.
It most likely was Syrian. That's pretty much
Oh, okay.
my I feel like if I'm gonna have any kind of contact, it would be Syrian. I guess that's not the only time. There was this one time that my best friend and I, same best friend, we were in a medicine ceremony that night, and everybody else was starting to go to bed. It was getting really late, I don't know, 4 or 5 a.m. And we're like, no, we still want to stay up. And so we volunteered to tend to the fire and be the last persons to make sure it's put out. And it's along this little creek. So we're just sitting there at the fire, chit-chatting about life, whatever. And all of a sudden, I just very casually, I'm like, oh, this portal just opened over there. And my friend's like, oh, you're right, because she looked over. I can't see it. I just sense things I don't see, but she was seeing some kind of like weird movement and she couldn't make out what it was.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, something's visiting us right now. It's like very stick like. I can't see this. I can tell you things that I sense by feeling, but people think I can see because I don't know how to explain it. But I'm starting to explain this figure that I'm sensing, and it's like literally moving around us as if it's checking us out. And she could kind of see it and started to verify what she was seeing more visually to what I was feeling. And as soon as we started talking about whatever this entity was that came through this portal, it kind of like popped up and was like, oh, they can sense me. So it's like what I got from that is that we do have beings that can come through portals and check us out, but most of the time we're not fully aware. The fact that we were in a medicine space allowed us to be more open to experience that something was just coming and attuned to the fact that we were putting these energy beacons out and they were interested, and then realized we were aware of them, even though there wasn't like a physical scene.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so funny because I think it's so true. I love that he was caught off guard because they're probably used to not being seen at all. The same as ghosts, really.
Yeah,
Like those beings in another realm or another dimension are used to moving around us all the time, and they know that we're kind of not as evolved, not as attuned, so we don't sense them. So for someone to be like, "Who is that?" They're gonna be like, "Oh, dang, you can see it."
yeah.
Right? So I sometimes I think of have you seen the movie Heart and Soul with Robert Downey Jr. and Kevin Bacon's wife?
I don't think I know of the movie. I don't think I've ever seen it.
So it's about this mom who's on a bus and she crashes and she dies, but her baby lives. And that baby is then followed by a lot of people who died on that crash who just kind of follow it around as its guardian angels, but it never notices them until like one day it finally is like, "Who are you guys?" And they're like, "What? You can see us?" So it's like when you shift your perspective, you can see what's always been there. That's what always fascinates me about things like that, whether it's aliens or ancestors or ghosts or other beings that they're there all the time. Everything is there all the time. It's just a matter of whether or not we perceive it, right?
Well, absolutely. And we're perceiving so much stimuli, like millions of bits of stimuli are like being input every single second of our life. And so our brain's having to sort out and create what it is that we're seeing in front of us, what it is that we sense, what it is we feel. And so whatever we are accustomed to being attuned to is how we're going to perceive something. But it's also running through all of the different filters that we've built up in our entire lifetime of um, concepts, beliefs, traumas, everything that happens becomes a filter in our brain that gets processed through. And so we tune out quite a bit of information. And that's why, like, meditation and getting quiet allows us to open up more sensory perception that all of us have as human beings. We just don't recognize it because there's so much noise.
Yes, absolutely. And both you and I, the work that we do, you as a therapist, so through body work, through aromatherapy, through senses, through hypnotherapy, those are all ways to kind of start clearing out the noise and the layers that keep us from this sensory. Because to me, once you release all that stuff and you start getting more connected, you naturally begin to have an awakening, right? You start to realize that, oh, there's more to this world than the five senses. There's more to this world than just live, work, and die. Things start coming online, and then you start being more also attuned to the energies and the emotions within you. So you realize you have to clear things out around you and within you, right? And then once you do that, then
Absolutely.
you're just enlightened.
Right? Well, more enlightened than you were before. I think there's
More
not
enlightened.
like a destination enlightenment, but rather a continual enlightening, um, which is what I think of as just leveling up in different areas of our life.
Yeah.
And I really, to the awakening process, I honestly have come to the conclusion that it goes hand in hand, if not also because of deep healing work. So the more that we heal the pieces of ourselves, the easier it is to recognize the divine connection that we have and to start getting a remembrance of what it is that we came to this earth for in this particular body, in this particular incarnation.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Little by well, we start to recognize the divine within us,
Hmm.
right? When we see that there's nothing inherently wrong with us and there's nothing that we've ever done or any aspect of ourselves or our personalities or our choices that could ever make us not ultimately, unconditionally, infinitely valuable, just like the divine, right? But that's why
Absolutely.
I started my podcast was because I lived my whole life thinking the opposite. Because of everything I've done, everything I went through, everything I'm not, I will never be valuable like other people. So it's a brilliant thing that I think all humans will eventually do and definitely deserve to. So, Elisha, tell us about your wild ride of your spiritual awakening. When did it begin? I mean, I feel like you're probably one of those kids that like talk to their make-believe friend, like talk to angels. Was that you? Or did it not happen in
I
any
was not
way?
allowed. I was not allowed. So I guess let me give like
Let's
some history
go.
of the kind of house that
Yeah,
I grew up in.
tell us
So
everything.
I grew up in a more fundamentalist Assembly of God, which is kind of like a cross between Pentecostal and evangelical kind of beliefs
This was
household
your
with my
parents.
parents.
And
Mhm.
were you, because you now live in Oklahoma, was this in Oklahoma?
No, it started out in Oregon because that's where I was born, and then my
Okay.
parents moved us to Texas when my dad was going to go to Bible school to become an ordained minister for the Assembly of God Church. He never got a church, but he was ordained. So my whole life, he was like a deacon in the church. He would teach Sunday school. He plays the saxophone, so he would also be on the music team. And church was pretty much our life. We had Sunday morning church, we had Sunday night church, we had Wednesday night church. And then because my parents played music or did other things, we were usually up at the church like a Friday night or Saturday for practices. And then there also might be like in home Bible studies. So everything was centered and focused around the church. And I was very restricted. I wasn't allowed to watch shows that other people could. Any music that wasn't praise and worship music or classical music was not allowed in our house. So it wasn't until I was a teenager and kind of got out, like with friends, that I started listening to secular music, which was bad music. It would invite demons in. So I actually have a memory of, I think I wanted an imaginary friend or something. I don't even think it was one that I saw. I think it was just making it up. And I had mentioned something to my mom, and she looked at me and said, "You're not allowed to have imaginary friends." So that shut me up. Um, I've always felt intuitive, despite the restriction and the very culty like upbringing that I had. But I was definitely very brainwashed into the religion by the time I was in like my teenage years. I was a goody two shoes. I aimed to do everything right. I didn't do everything right, but it was definitely that have to do this. If you do something and step out of line, there was a lot of shame. And because of the strictness and some abusiveness in my house, I basically just kind of shut down. Like my entire response was, well, I had an incident with my dad that shut my voice down at the age of 12. And that stayed until my mid 30s when I started my wild awakening journey that we'll get into. But I was on a freeze response. I literally couldn't communicate anything that was like my real emotions or my real inner space. I just was not capable until I went through some other healing work, like in my mid 30s, and I didn't even know I wasn't capable of getting it out. It was just my normal. And so, about 23 years old, I met somebody that introduced me to paganism. And it was a lot to wrap my brain around because I really had a hard time conceptualizing that anything else could exist other than heaven, hell, and God, because that's all I knew. I literally, everything else was either like demonic or of the world, and that's what I was taught, and I really believed it. So that was kind of like my opening. So I was like, I swung the pendulum and said, I'm not going to be Christian anymore. I'm going to be pagan. And so I went that route for a little while. I kind of got involved with some groups that did different like witchy ceremonies and learned about different pagan pantheons and gods and goddesses. And um, I tried that on. And there was never just like one pantheon that I was like, yes, this is definitely what I should be doing. But there was a lot that I gleaned from it, and I really enjoyed the rituals, the slowing down and doing rituals, and especially doing rituals with groups. So, um, most of my 20s, pretty much in the old way of thinking, a different version of me. Fast forward, and I'm now at 27, I became a single mom. It was pretty rough for a little while. And I got to my dark night of my soul because I had zero support from any direction. I was doing everything 100% on my own as a single mom. I was barely scraping by with two jobs. And I was at my wit's end. I had never taken any time for myself. Sometimes I went without food to feed my son. Um, I was in the do whatever it takes to survive mode, which is not fun. And I was contemplating suicide for a little while because it sounded better than just working for the rest of your life to be tired and run down and not be going anywhere. But I also knew it wasn't a point because I was the only person that, like, I was this kid's mom, like, he needed me. So that wasn't an option. I had the book, The Power, just kind of crossed my path. For anyone out there, it's the sequel to The Secret, which was also made a movie, but also a book. And it was in alignment with what I needed at that particular time in my life. So just reading the book, something about it just empowered me and shifted my own inner perspective. It helped me just kind of tip the scales of my own vibratory state. And I started thinking about how maybe I want to become a naturopathic doctor. This is back in like 2009. So Googling back then, you had to be really precise with all of the words that you put in. And I am not good at being that particular Googler. So all I would get is already established naturopathic doctors' websites, but I couldn't figure out how you actually got on the path of learning to get there. One thing that I noticed in common is had they were all licensed massage therapists in addition to the doctorates that they carried. So my logical processing was, oh crap, do you have to be a massage therapist in order to be a naturopathic doctor? Well, let me see how much massage school costs because I'm the kind of person, if I have a goal in mind, I'll do whatever it takes to get to that goal, even if it's stuff I don't like, so I get the end result. And so in my mind, this was just going to be an end result process. And I was just checking out prices. Well, within 20 minutes of filling this form out online, I'm getting a phone call from this school saying, "Hey, would you like to come by and check out our school tomorrow?" And when I normally would have said no, I said yes because the school that was on the complete opposite side of town happened to be near a friend's house that I was already going to the next day. And it was synchronicity that I was already going to be on that side of town. And to give like my state of being at the time, I would just like cry driving the car because I was so stressed out. And so I literally, for the 45-minute trip from my house to the school, was just crying. And I get to the parking lot and I'm like wiping off tears and just hoping that these people I don't know don't recognize that my face is red and blotchy because I've been crying for the past 45 minutes. And I go in and I do this little tour, and they're like, "So, do you want to start Monday?" And I was like, "That's a little soon." So, I have a child, I have a job, like, I have to make arrangements if I'm going to move forth. But they did funding, like government funding. So, I signed up for the next class that started in a little over a month. And it was a 7-month course for massage therapy. And so now I'm like doing this thing. And massage therapy, I would say, was the thing that really forced me into an awakening. First, they start talking about energy transference, and I'm still got my brainwashing stuff in my head. So they're like energy, and I'm like, y'all are just full of BS. I don't know what you think you're talking about, but that's no energy transference. We're just touching people. Like that's it. So this is in my head. This is about the hubris that I've had for everything that's come into my path that I was like, oh, that's dumb, or that's not gonna work, or I don't know why we're here doing this. It's this inner battle. By the second month, we had learned this technique in school, and my hands started heating up. At the time, it was just really cool. Like nobody else in my class had heating hands. And so everybody wanted a massage for me because it felt different. And I didn't know anything about energy work until I was going to do my continuing education for the first time. You have to take so many hours, depends on your state and licensing and stuff, but so many hours that you have to take every couple of years to keep your license up. And the first one that crossed my path was just the right amount. It wasn't what I wanted to do. We'll put it that way. It was not anything I wanted to do, but the price was right and it was close enough that I could make it there. So the universe literally just aligned everything. It gave me extra money that month. It gave me the ability to travel. Like everything just fell into place with absolute perfection for me to go take this continuing education class. At the time, I'm still a bit depressed, but I'm going there. And it was a Qigong, a 4-day Qigong event. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, that's like some Eastern stuff I'm not interested in. But there is this one portion where we get a class on using food as medicine. And I was really interested in that because it was based on Chinese medicine. So I was like, if anything I take away from these 4 days, it's going to be this food stuff. That is not what happened. I did take the food stuff away, but there was so much more life changing than I could ever have imagined because we're in there. Like he slowly kind of gets you used to doing the qigong till you're eventually doing the whole routine. It's like this build up with intermittent workshops, doing breath work, and so it's really just gauging your body. So we've been doing qigong, and we're getting introduced to this breath work called 9 breath, and it's on the third day of the retreat. and he's teaching it to us. And so we practice. Well, by the third time that we were doing our practice breath, and my eyes are closed. The room's already bright, but my eyes are closed. So first it's dark, and I do this breath, and then I hear an explosion. I mean, it sounded like the loudest explosion. And then my ears had the most high pitched ringing I've ever heard in my entire life. I felt waves of vibrational love move through me in something I had never felt in my entire life. In this moment, I felt like I was at one with everything in the entire universe and that there was no separation. Like the concept was so set in that moment that I've never forgotten to know how much I'm at one with everything in the universe and that all of us are connected in this divine light. So after that, tears were streaming down my eyes, and I was like, oh my gosh, this breath is what people are missing, and I need to take it back home. So I had no intentions of going to this and becoming a Qigong instructor. But in order to teach this breath work, I had to go through the first two levels of this training. So again, back to my goals. My goal was to teach the breath work. So I went through the training. And Qigong, literally, it I didn't know it was a somatic healing exercise. I was just doing it to try and up level myself to where I wanted to be. And the results were it calmed my vagus nerve down. Instead of being in fight, flight, freeze like I had been for, I don't know, most of my life, I felt peace. So the only thing I could tell you is like, I feel the most immense peace from doing this exercise with breath. I don't know what to tell you. Nothing else crazy healing has happened. I just feel peaceful. And now I know it's because it is somatic and it does actually calm the vagus nerve, but it also teaches you how to become the eye of a storm. So when everything's moving around you in chaos, you learn how to be still and quiet so that everything that you do shifts and changes because the decisions that you make when you are at peace internally, as opposed to in a heightened state of anxiety or fear, are completely different. And so my decisions started changing. So the things that I was attracted to started changing. It taught me to sense how energy flowed internally, and it taught me to sense how it flowed externally. And then I just kind of started dipping my toe into energy work. And I'm self-trained through the Qigong and just hearing about concepts, and then having gracious friends that trust me to try the concept, and then it works and people feel things. And I was like, oh, well, this is cool. I don't know what I'm doing, but this is cool. That led me to an opening through ecstatic dance. It was another, by the time you're an instructor, you get to travel around for free and get put in a hotel. You just have to get yourself there. And so I started doing this, and it was also a huge part of my awakening process, going one back to these same workshops and participating over and over again really just helped raising my own internal vibrations and the frequency that I'm putting out, and helping me to get into a more meditative state. So that was one thing. But sometimes someone would lead an ecstatic dance, and dance is another area that I was shut down in my life. So I was never allowed to dance growing up. And I do not know the logic behind that, but I wasn't allowed. So what it became was then that lack of self-confidence, that person that's too shy to actually get up. And I'd be a chair dancer. Music is playing wherever you're at, whether it's a bar or party, and I'm just like bouncing in my chair. And friends would always be like, get up and dance. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not going to dance. But ecstatic dance changed that for the first time in my life. The facilitator, really had us get into our own space so that you can forget about everybody else around you. Just feel the rhythm, feel the music. Boy, I've never felt anything so amazing as when I can dance. And I was vibrating so high, I don't even know what to tell you. I literally would give other people hugs and they would feel a zing. I had built up so much energy. And ever since that, the freedom to dance no matter where I am. We can be in the grocery store and they can put a song on that I like, and I'm more than happy to dance down the aisle. And so that was a drastic change from the person that I used to be. And then other things like different breath works, like workshops that people would do at different times started coming into my awareness. And I was just in alignment with spirit. I was on this spiritual journey. And so I was just listening to wherever I felt guided or whatever presented the opportunities that kind of sounded cool. Um, that's how uh, plant medicine came in, and it's been very healing for me. I was goody two shoes. I was never seeking out any plant medicine. Like when it was presented to me, I was like, oh no, no, I can't do that because I'm a good person and I don't do drugs. And and the first time it was after I had already done all this work with Qigong, my awareness was already raised through that. And we did like 1 gram of mushrooms. It was my first time. I had to be talked into it, and they asked me to lead a meditation before we even started because my friends are all about ceremony. So it was creating a ceremony, talking to the mushrooms, like putting an intention in before that. Well, my experience was I felt equivalent on that 1 gram of mushrooms as I felt at a 3 day Qigong retreat where we had 1,000 people doing Qigong in the room at the same time. And the only difference was that it kind of like visually shifted things a little bit. But as far as the energetic space, mushrooms give me the exact same thing that can be accomplished through Qigong. So I had already experienced the tools that we had here before the cheat code of the mushrooms. So now I recognize, and then I had more come in. I mean, I've done ayahuasca, I've done mescaline, I've done the psychedelics, peyote. I was introduced to a Native American church, and they eat peyote in a ceremony. I was really resistant to that at first too, because they wanted me to wear a skirt. And I did not want to wear a skirt because I could do anything a man could do, and I could wear pants, and I didn't need to be put into this box that they were putting me as a female. Like I was just so built up on all this resistance and these ideas that I had. And I attended this church for 4 years, and it was never about the medicine. Like I would go sit in one of those ceremonies all night long without any of the medicine. I find them to be healing just for the ceremony aspect of what they offer and for the teachings that they have. And through that, I learned how to become in tune with my body and really start listening. I learned how our womanly hormones and all of that are actually really, really powerful. That when we're bleeding, that we're in ceremony for like, whatever yours last, 3 days, 7 days, somewhere in between. It's an entire ceremony between you and the divine and the earth. And so when a woman would be what feels like excluded from a ceremony, it was really because that woman is already in her own ceremony and holding so much power that whatever her emotions are, whatever her thoughts are, whatever she's going through is actually going to sway the entire group. So and that's what they believe, like a woman's more powerful in that time. And it even goes back to we have all these wars with men and stuff because women, we bleed every month. We're supposed to bleed on the earth. That's the old way of doing it. And men don't bleed. So they have to do war to shed the blood in order for them to bleed on the earth. And it's like, it's intense, but those thoughts wouldn't have come without those ceremonies. And
Yeah,
and
ceremony
hearing,
is beautiful. It's very sacred. It's something we don't do enough of. Ceremony used to be a part of our lives all the time, and then we abandoned it for more structure and more common sense, more realistic things. But the reality is that everything in life is sacred. So even holding a few ceremonies a month through cycles, whatever it might be, is a wonderful way to commune with each other and with the earth. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Elisha, because I have this oracle called the Powerful Earth Oracle, and it's various sites around the world. Because I'd shared with you, I'm going to be traveling, and but I just wanted this anyways to be aware of them. But it talks about this island in Indonesia where they have these male tribes who still, it's not actual fighting, but they reenact these battles that they used to have, where they would have these battles not necessarily to fight for anything, but for the sake of bleeding on the earth. It was a blood ritual, essentially, a blood sacrifice. Because we're meant, like a lot of tribes believe that you're meant to give your blood back to the earth. It's very powerful.
I definitely find it an interesting concept. I feel like moving forward within our awakening, within our humanity, moving into new spaces, that the blood sacrifice has got to go. Like, I don't think that we actually need that to be in union with the divine or with the earth. I
No,
think
well,
we
not so much
have ways.
I think that was I mean, that's a very masculine mindset, right? Like we have to
Yeah,
kill to get back to the earth, but the feminine was just giving what naturally was leaving their bodies and returning it to the earth, right? If you literally just bleed on the ground when you're menstruating and when your cycle's flowing and you have, you're releasing this old blood that you no longer need, that's just completing the cycle. Whereas again, the masculine energy is like, well, we have to make this happen, right? Where in reality, it might just be that men don't have that same connection. There's other things they can release back to earth, but maybe it didn't need to be blood. I just thought that that example was interesting because, again, that was kind of a more archaic, ancient belief. Like, oh, you must, because they didn't always get everything right, you know? Just because they did something a long time ago doesn't mean that it's the most beneficial way to do it.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of our shift of moving into the feminine is recognizing that some of these ways maybe aren't like the best ways, or maybe there's some better ways.
Yeah, definitely. If it involves violence, maybe that's not yeah, we don't have to get too much into that. But yeah,
Right.
absolutely. But so many ceremonies are beautiful. But I find that's fascinating aspect that women are so disconnected from what the celebration that's meant to be our menstruation. Now it's just this burden. Like, oh, great, I have to have cramps and be uncomfortable and have to still work when I'm not, because we're meant to have time to have reprieve from life when we're going through that, when we're releasing.
Yeah. I mean, I found that getting more in touch and paying attention has lessened any of the symptoms that I was having. And I don't, I feel like there's probably some quantum explanation to that. And there might even be some scientific explanation. I don't know them. I just know that I started tracking my period. I started looking at my body differently and viewing this just as a vessel that was in divine union and giving myself the grace if I'm like, for me, I might get really tired, especially on one day of my flow, and being like, you know what, it's okay that this is where I am right now. It's part of the cycle. And by doing these small little shifts, I feel it has made a drastic positive impact in the way my body experiences what I'm going through. And, and speaking to that, like a lot of my journey has been about coming back into my body because coming from such a restrictive background and learning how to basically dissociate so I didn't have to be in my body or be fully present or feel the things. If I was receiving a punishment, it wasn't going to hurt because I sure is going to make sure that they're not going to hurt me. And so you just get this attitude that you build up. And I would say like qigong brought me back into my body. Dance brought me back into my body. Breath work brought me back into my body. Medicine, as odd as it sounds, because you're kind of out there, also brought me back into my body. It's each time also going back to the ceremony, creating that ceremony around it has been more powerful. Because later on, I tried some of the same substances, not in ceremony, didn't like them. They weren't nearly as powerful, didn't get nearly as great of a thing. In ceremony, there's an intention, there's what you go through, there's what you take away, and there's what you integrate in the rest of your life. And that integration, I think, is really the most pivotal key that people miss when they're just searching to have experiences with different plant medicines because they can be so much more powerful when you pull it back and create this intention and then integrate because you level up and you grow and whatever that medicine was showing you at that time that you communed with the medicine so that you could grow in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, it's a spirit, right? The
Yeah.
energy is a spirit. So it's going to be visiting you, visits everyone in a different way, has a different experience each time. It's a dance you do with that medicine, is my understanding, and with that spirit. But someone on my show once said that, and I always, this always stuck with me, that everything is, there's a spirit of everything. So even
Mhm.
the things, and talking about the relationship with your body and getting to learn to love and know your body and listen to it, even everything we eat and ingest, right? So coffee, caffeine, alcohol, meat, dairy, grains, fruits, vegetables, everything has its own spirit to its energy. And some, it's about listening and what energies work with you and which don't. Again,
Mm.
humans are often so trained to just know this is what you have for breakfast, this is when you do this, and we tune out any kind of discrepancy that's like, gosh, I never feel good after I eat X, Y, or Z. But if you are more attuned, you can hear it. And I'm not the best at that. And I wanted to note that that's amazing that with your cycle that you're able to alleviate some of the typical symptoms of having, menstruation. Because I'm not there. I get horrific cramps. And it could be because I'm, moving more towards perimenopause or whatever it is. But it also, I've heard like the more attuned you are and at peace with your body, the more you're, functioning really well, mind, body, soul, you're not going to have, it's not normal to have such strong menstruation symptoms, is what I've come to understand. And that women don't have to suffer as much as we do. Right. And I won't get too far into that because then it goes into like, well, but it helps a lot. How many people profit off of all the things we take to take care of our menstruation? The pads, Advil and Tylenol and painkillers and this, that, and the other thing. That's a whole nother thing. But I think there's a way that all these symptoms can be lessened. All the body, and you know this because you do body work, is that if we're more attuned and in sync with what our body wants and doesn't want, we're going to alleviate so many symptoms that we're using something else to take care of when really it's just about getting back to the source.
It is. And what's really interesting is I was reading an article the other day that they had done a study on people with the body, like body work, and it didn't matter if they had light touch or deeper touch, the results were reported for the same type of pain, either which way. So scientifically, they're kind of baffled at how is it that these different types of touch can accomplish the same results. And so a lot of it's more about like working with our nervous system. Our nervous system also, while there's a lot of chemicals that go into that, a lot of our emotions come into play. And so that's how those emotions can create the nervous system to do something. And then it's a matter of getting somebody to relax enough that their body feels safe enough to relax as well. And even like with my work, I people are like, what do you do exactly? It's really hard to explain, especially when people are, oh, this technique, that technique, or whatever. I don't have a specific go-to. I get rid of this pain, that, or whatever. I like to work the whole body. I like to give somebody an experience that allows the deepest amount of relaxation, but also, if I come across a knot, I'm going to work it out. And so a good, like really good blend between like the therapeutic and the relaxation that almost allows somebody to feel like they're going to another world. Or maybe it's some placebo that I just touch somebody and they're like, oh, well, I feel so much better after you did that. I don't know how it works, but it does. And even the other day, I gave someone a massage, someone at church, and she like told the whole church this morning, it's cute, how she has arthritis and a bone spur in her shoulder, saw me, decided she didn't think it was going to actually help because it's not muscular pain, but said that since she's gotten a massage, she's been 75% better with her pain and wasn't expecting any of that. So just the power of touch, and you don't have to be a massage therapist. Like we as humans thrive on touch. Like little babies need touch. If they don't have touch, if they're even if their brain isn't naturally wired to like psychopathy or antisocial disorder, not being touched can actually wire the brain into that because it's so pivotal of a need that we have. And it's something that we don't do enough of, especially in our society. We're like, stay away from me, don't touch me. And then we went through the vid and then it got like, oh, stay super far away from me. And then a lot of people have just gotten where they don't want to be around other people. But when we, I don't know, you just soften. Like when you have somebody that you trust that comes up and they say they put their hand on your back or your shoulder, and you just notice that your body starts to soften a little or you melt, like this sense of safety that comes into play when somebody we trust gives a nice form of touch. And so, whether that's having hugs with people that last longer than a millisecond, or allowing more touch with the people that you trust in your life can create a better response in the body. And then in turn, give you some of the happy chemicals. And so the other areas of your life are even better and more profound. And you find yourself feeling just a little bit lighter, a little bit happier, and all from the power of touch.
Yeah, absolutely. The power of touch is phenomenal. There's meant to be more of it. We really did become a much more separate society. Like, oh, you really only embrace and hug people very close to you. You don't really engage. And not that we're meant to be, draped all over each other. I mean, maybe. Why? I think that's preferable to never connecting, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I know for me, I'm not in a romantic relationship. I'm not in a partnership. And I travel. So I'm always moving. I don't have a community. So I start to notice, I'm like, God, I haven't hugged somebody in like weeks. And it doesn't feel right. You're meant to like have, because there's, like you said, there's something that softens when somebody embraces you, right? I've had times where I was stressed out, overwhelmed, and someone's like, can I give you a hug? And just tears, just sobbing. Because you get to release a bit. Like we're so used to carrying everything. But also it's just the comfort of like, oh, there's someone else. Like we're all the same, we're all one, but being embraced by another just reminds you that, that feeling. There's also just the sense of like being contained a little bit, like just like that's why we like weighted blankets and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. That pressure can feel so good when we are just sort of alone and overwhelmed. It's very comforting, right? Like a baby that likes to be swaddled and all nicely wrapped up. Like I do that to myself. I like to like swaddle myself in bed because it feels cozy and comfy, right? Because you don't
Yes.
have someone to wrap around you. So yeah, I think the power of touch and embrace is so, and it makes me a little nervous because with everything online now, we have less and less actual interactions with each other. We can just do it all. I was actually just reading a study about there was an article about Las Vegas and how Las Vegas is having to deal with this crisis of everything's going downhill in terms of tourism, people in casinos, all of that, because the generation coming in does everything online and they don't have this desire to spend money frivolously. They don't want experiences and also the new generation is drinking less. So, anyways, but Vegas is like, well, how do we do this? Because people aren't interacting in person as much. They're not doing like destination trips and stuff like that. It still happens, but they're losing a lot. So, that to me is just a little bit telling and is a little bit worrisome that we're still meant to be in community. Like, yes, there's some improvements and positive changes with the new generation, but it's very concerning to have less actual in-person interaction. Because I also believe that with the return of the divine feminine, that's the return of the idea of community, collaboration. Let's work together. And also getting back to more village, tribe, community work, where you're living in like a village together and doing everything together. To me, that's the solution. So when I hear about people wanting to go further into this sort of Americanized idea of isolation, like just get your house, your box, your work, your family, very secular. I think that we want to move away from that if we want to see greater shift in the collective consciousness, right? So it's kind of like that's the thing about AI is like we're both are happening at the same time. There's the rise of consciousness and connection, and then there's a rise of AI, which is dehumanization a little bit, right?
I don't know. I have some different thoughts on the AI. I think it's an integration of introducing the divine elements into a format that we can understand better as humans. I think it's an interface. And so I kind of view us like, I mean, I don't know exactly, just kind of come up with ideas in my head, but like the holographic um, model kind of makes a lot of sense to me that we're in this hologram or this simulation that we come through to experience this different vibration of reality. And so um, AI is an advancement in technology for humans. And a lot of it is scary because it's change, it's unknown. And we fear change, we fear anything that we don't know. But it's also like and opening into consciousness, into divine source. Like, what if that could just be another way? Um, just like I know and have experienced telepathy with people when I'm really connected to them. It's not all the time, but it happens. And now there's a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes Out, where this lady's going in doing all this research on non-speaking autistics and how they have telepathy, really just trying to expand the horizons. And I think this is great in the deal of awakening. So we have this as humans, but then you have the other fear factor of, oh my gosh, what if they make like this brain chip that they put in and then we all communicate? It's the same thing. It's all the same thing from a different lens and a different way to go about it. So I think some people aren't ready to the full divine expansion that we comprehend or understanding, or that your audience is on that train. And so they need something that's more physical. But this is a way to help unify more people, in my opinion, eventually. So I'm really trying not to lean into fear of all of the different things that we have going on around us, or the continuous changes that are happening, um, because fear doesn't actually accomplish anything, and it makes me feel smaller, makes me want to hide. And if I can tackle not being in that space, it's easier to move forward. It's easier to step into the alignment of myself, who I'm here to be, the light that I have to shine, and to embrace and give love in a world that doesn't have enough of it. And so it's staying in my own lane and being okay with whatever the changes are coming. And for me, I'm embracing AI with my podcast because it gives me a summary of things and timestamps and just some basic stuff. So it's a tool if we use it as a tool. It's when it becomes not a tool that the chances of it becoming something worse for humanity happens.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a proponent of fear. I don't think that fear is necessary, and I don't fear AI. I don't think that anything is meant to be stopped. I think that anything that is becoming is meant to be. I'm not about fighting against anything. I'm just acknowledging that it can, when things are introduced, there's always a benevolence to them and a danger to them, to everything. And that it's a matter of how people engage with it, right? If you want to use AA, use AI, use AI, and any other thing. I mean, if people want to spend more time alone and less socialization, like that's totally up to them. But I'm just offering that I think that the greatest growth happens when we are connected. And sure, I get your point about AI and virtual reality and all of those are ways. I mean, everything's still divine. It's just a different, I guess I'm have never been a big fan of any kind of like a synthetic reality. But that's just me. Some people think that it's a great way to do it. And so I am in no way saying like we have to stop this. Again, I do not believe in forcing anything. And that includes forcing something, everything that can be, will be. And we have to let it. Otherwise, what happens? Anything you repress just grows stronger and then will eventually erupt, right? We have to let it come and let it be what it may. But I think that people also have a choice to not engage with it, right? And to want to say, I'd rather go live on a farm and start building a small community where we have less contact with technology and do more hands-on earth in our hands, grow our own food type of things, right? So it's
Oh,
just
I think
different
that's
ways
needed.
of experiencing. Like nobody has to do one or the other. It'll just be, and then I guess it's just something that has the potential is that obviously, just like everything else that's been created, like scientists and physicists aren't inherently dangerous, but they did end up creating the atomic bomb, which people would agree was not a great advent for humanity. But I don't deny it. It was in their minds. They brought it into fruition, but the results were catastrophic. And that's what AI has. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There's beautiful ways to use it. Go for it. But it's just, there's inherent risk to it. But like you said, especially this past year, I really got that message that was fear is always a choice and it's never helpful. No matter what, even if the worst could happen, fear doesn't help. It doesn't help to worry about it. You just have to align with the reality that you want. So if your reality doesn't involve AI, don't engage with it, right? And if
I
your reality is
completely
like, I
agree.
want to have a healthy relationship with it, then do it, right? Just like some people love journeying and doing plant medicine and all that, and some people don't. There's no right or wrong.
Absolutely. You are here to experience whatever your soul came here to be. And for some people, that will be like the farming and the community. And for other people, it'll be high rises in the city with much more noise. And the beauty is, there's all these experiences we get to have, but they're intermingling together. I definitely think that we need more community activities, more connection with other people. My observations at this time is that's what people are really missing. So we kind of catapulted ourselves and like with social media and then all these different ways of communicating on the internet. And it's not like it was before where we didn't have that. So you do without something that you enjoyed and didn't know that you're going to miss for a long enough time, you start to miss it. And that's the beauty of life too. It's the contrast of getting to experience these things. Just like with the plant medicines, I got the contrast of what it's like to experiencing medicine in a ceremony setting and to try and experience it just to have a good time. And it's drastically different. But I think it's important for people, if it's on their life journey, to have some of these different contrasts because that helps you solidify what it is that's right for you, what it is that nurtures your soul, your spirit. Some people, like I'm an extrovert. I want to be around people more than I don't want to be around people because it feeds me. I feel more energized, like a true extrovert, and then it takes me a while to dissipate the energy after I've been around people because I'm like wired. And there's other people that if they were around and people the amount of time I am because they're true introverts, it would be completely draining to them and not nourish their soul. So just even those two examples, we all have different ways of operating and using these things. And then money could be seen as good or evil by people. It's about perception, but really it's just a tool. And then we as humans make the choice on whether we want to use it for good or evil. AI is a tool that humans are going to make a choice on how they're going to use it. So we can do all these cool things with all these different stuff around us. And, some people might even integrate like community with some technology and stuff. There's different ways for different folks, but
Always.
connection is needed.
Of course. Well, Elisha, this has been so fun and such an awesome conversation to get to have with you, my lovely listener of a long time and friend. And I'm so excited for you and this life you've created where you've integrated all that you've learned through your journey of awakening, the things that moved you. Clearly, you're very attuned because you had along the lines, you had very heightened experiences that I've never had anything like that. I didn't see aliens. That's badass. And just, the heat on your hands when you even first just started doing like that's unique. So everything you've had, you're clearly, an elevated soul in a beautiful way. So this is so exciting that now you're getting to make it all your own. You just said that you moved into a new home and you said, I just wanted a home my whole life. I wanted a place where I could make it exactly how I wanted. And look at your beautiful setting. There's this vibrant pink and reddish pink and white and just and then purple. And it just feels very effervescent around you. The light is bright around you. So it shows that you're moving into all these beautiful aspects of yourself. And it seems like you're very clear in terms of within you.
Yes. My home is joyful. I painted every room as a different color, and colors make me happy. So that's one way that I can make sure that I'm experiencing joy in my life is by creating an environment. Even on the bad days, I still got the environment.
Yes. It makes such a difference. It really does. I can attest to this because I've lived in hundreds of different homes in the past few years, and the environment you're in makes a difference. Yes, everything is within you, but at the same time, things outside of you evoke things within you. So when you're in a beautiful environment, you're feeling pretty good. So congratulations. And we are doing a podcast swap right now, and we're doing this on the new moon in Capricorn. So Elisha, you and I talked about each pulling a card for the audience like you'll pull one now, I'll pull one on your show for the energy for this moon. So let's see it in action a little bit. Would you like to use some of your spiritual gifts and pull an oracle card for us?
Yes. I have this deck called Energy and Spirit Oracle. Um,
That's beautiful. I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
yeah, I don't have a lot of decks because I don't do a lot of cards, but I like Oracle cards because you just get like your one go for whatever it is. So we'll see what pops out at me. I think that card's jumping out. So we got Divine Presence, the force of love and creation. And it's this card with a beautiful meadow in front of a lake. The sun is brilliantly shining and taking up almost the whole sky of this card. And you can see that there's some clouds behind the sun, but the beams are really the thing that draws your attention when you look at this.
Ooh, that's
So,
gorgeous. Looks like gold
yeah,
plated ground.
it looks like a great place to go spend an afternoon on a warm day, not a cold day.
Beautiful.
So it says the infinite. Do you want me to read the thing?
Yeah, yeah,
The
please.
infinite mind of divine consciousness, it reaches out to dwell in every soul, every object, every wave and particle in the world. You are an intrinsic and important part of the wondrous mechanism we call the universe. This card says it's time to tap into the abundance and joy that flow in every direction from this divine radiant light. The love of divine intention connects everyone in the process of healing and enlightenment. We have come here together for important reasons, and reconnecting with divine consciousness is one we all share. Recognize and honor the beautiful energy of the divine within you. No greater strength exists than the co creative power of aligning your own intentions with this infinite source. Connection with this loving force is always within you, willing to answer your questions, heal your hurts, and fulfill your dreams. When you open up to the radiant, ever glowing light of the divine, its endless blessings will illuminate your life. And it gives an affirmation, which is I am one with the loving presence of the divine. I align my life with the pure light of abundant creation. That goes along with everything we talked about today.
Perfect. It's the perfect card, perfectly synchronized. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I have no doubt that you have a divine presence with you. We all do, but I think that something special happens, just like we said with the beans, that they're like, whoa, you saw me. When your divine presence realizes that you know them, you know they're there, it's different. It changes. There's more interaction. There's more, you get those sensations, and they're able to give more to you because you're receiving, you're consciously receiving, right? So, from your divine presence, from my divine presence to your divine presence, thank you so much for being on the show, Elisha. It's really is such a gift and such a beautiful moment because, again, I appreciate you so much for that email you sent all those years ago and for being a wonderful listener of the show for all these years. It means so much. And I'm so happy for you and all the beautiful creations and offerings and divine gifts that you're relishing in now.
Oh, thank you.
All right, my dear. Well, if people would like to listen to your podcast so they can hear our next conversation and learn more about you, how can they find you?
So, for my podcast, which is the most publicly thing I currently have out there to offer the world, it's called That's Just Human. You can look it up on any listening platform or on YouTube if you want to see the faces. And you can find me pretty much anywhere. If you type me into Google, I will pop up. It's Elisha, Elisha, Light Angel. Those are one word, Light Angel, not two. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and I have a website. But if you type in Elisha Light Angel or That's Just Human, you'll find me.
We'll find you. All right, my dear. Well, I'll see you on the other side on your show. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Take good care. Happy new moon.
Thanks.